Hey everybody, Thomas Joseph here with another kitchen conundrum. Last Thanksgiving, did your pumpkin pie turn out like this? Sunken in the middle, maybe with some big cracks in the center, and this liquid on top, maybe even an underbaked crust on the bottom? Well, today I'm gonna show you how to avoid all of that and make a perfect pumpkin pie for this Thanksgiving. It all starts with the crust. For an easy crimped edge, all you have to do is you have to fold the crust under slightly. You're building up the edge so that you have something to crimp. So now using well-floured fingers for a nice crimped edge, I like to use my thumb, my other thumb, and my pointer finger, and you're gently going to press the crust into a crimped or fluted edge. Just like that. You want to do this quickly so that you can get it right into the refrigerator, and you're going to chill this crust until it's nice and firm, about 30 minutes. So the crust is nice and cold, very, very firm, and this is really the first step in creating the perfect pumpkin pie, and that is blind baking it. And blind baking is a process of pre-baking the pie shell so that it's nice and crisp and you don't end up with an uncooked, soggy bottom crust. So I have a piece of parchment. Take the parchment and crinkle it up. You're making the paper a little bit more flexible, a little bit more malleable. And crinkling this up makes it much easier to fit into the pie shell in all of the nooks and crannies. And now take some baking beans or pie weights, whatever you have on hand, and fill this up. And this process ensures that the crust itself doesn't bubble up and the shape doesn't change. So this goes into a 375-degree oven, and you're going to cook with the beans for about 30 minutes. Make sure that the bottom crust here is set before you remove this so that the whole crust can brown evenly for about another 10, maybe 15 minutes. So the blind baked pie shell is out of the oven, it's still hot, and a trick here in making sure that the filling doesn't seep into your crust and make it soggy is to brush while it's still warm with a little bit of egg white. It kind of cooks slightly on the pie shell and creates a barrier so that the filling doesn't soak into the crust. You can come up the side slightly and then let this cool completely before you add the filling. So now for the filling. I have one 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. I'm going to add 3 large eggs, and whenever you are cracking eggs, make sure that you crack them on a flat surface as opposed to the side of the bowl. You're less likely to get shell in your eggs if you crack on a flat surface versus on the side of the bowl. Little trick for you, I didn't know if you knew that. So these go right in to the pumpkin here. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla adds really great flavor. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and cornstarch helps thicken the filling. A half teaspoon of kosher salt, and salt is very important when you're baking. It helps to bring out all of those natural flavors, so make sure that you use salt. 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground ginger. 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So these are very typical classic pumpkin pie spices, and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. And that is probably 10 to 12, maybe even 15 little swipes on this microplane here. And to this, we need to add a little bit of sweetness. So I have 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar that has been packed. I'm gonna start to stir this together. And now add 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. Sweetened condensed milk is much thicker and it's very high in sugar, so just evaporated milk. Whisk this until it's nicely combined, and now we're ready to fill our pie shell. Have your oven preheated to 325 degrees. Whenever you have a custard, and this filling is considered a custard-like filling, a lower temperature will guarantee your pumpkin filling won't souffle up too much and then kind of collapse as it cools. So low and slow, 50 to 55 minutes. When it comes out of the oven, make sure that you cool it on a wire rack until it comes to room temperature before refrigerating for at least 6 hours or up to overnight. That long process of cooling the pie helps to ensure that you don't get any of these unsightly cracks, and also the weeping, which is the water that pools on the top. So if you do it correctly, you'll end up with something that looks like this, and I'm gonna cut into this pie because I can't wait to taste it. And use one of these offset knives. It's really great for slicing pies and cakes. I'm gonna go right in the center here. It's always really helpful to wipe the blade of your knife with a damp towel in between cuts. And I'm gonna try and sneak one piece out here. If your pie is really well chilled, it should come out perfectly. Serve it with a little bit of sweetened whipped cream. And there you have it, the perfect pumpkin pie recipe. I encourage you to try this recipe for your Thanksgiving meal.